What's up, NAIA Report Nation? It's your boy Manny here, and welcome to another edition of The Report, the NAIA Women's Basketball Podcast, episode 34. Going to be talking about some top 25 reactions. Going to be talking about some very important games coming up at the end of this week, as well as some games that are kind of happening right now. I'm recording this Wednesday night, so there's some games that are wrapping up that I have literally playing right here as we speak. So I'm going to definitely touch on a few things as those games kind of go final. A lot to deep dive into because we have had an interesting Wednesday, I should honestly say, because everything has been kind of up in the air. At the same time, some things went the way we expected to. Talking about the top 25, talking about some matchups. Already saw one top 25 team drop today. Could be looking at a receiving votes team dropping in a few moments here. We'll see it. Right now I'm talking about Lord versus Cleary with 1 minute and 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter. It's a 3-point game. Cleary is winning right now. So there's a lot to deep dive, but we're going to focus on the top 25. That's the first part of this episode. Everything kind of went the way I expected it to for the most part. Again, I saw Bethel being number one. That wasn't a shock. Thought Campbellsville could move up. I'm not surprised they didn't, though. St. Francis dropping to 8. I kind of saw that one coming as well. I'm actually going to pull up the polls right now so that I can go off of them and kind of let everybody know as I'm talking, so that way you have an idea of what I'm talking about. But again, everything kind of went similar to what I thought it would go. I didn't really. There were a few that I want to touch on, more towards the bottom than necessarily the top of the rankings, but I still think it went as expected. So again, looking through the rankings here, had Bethel, had Door, Campbellsville, Dakota State, Marion, kind of those five. Again, it could be interchangeable, but I think that's going to be the five we have for the remainder of the season for the most part, aside from any crazy upsets that these teams have in conference play. I had Freed Hardeman moving up to 6. That's where they are right now. St. Francis, I had them going to 8. They ended up dropping only to 7, but I knew they were going to drop, obviously. Rio Grande had them going into the top 10, especially with other teams moving out, and definitely moving up, maybe not into the top 10. I had them here. They would move up. Gut feeling is up, but I just didn't know exactly where. I'm kind of glad they're in the top 10. I think they are deserving of that. Concordia, figured they would stay in the top 10, that 9 to 10 range. They finished at 9, not moving anything. Dakota Wesleyan moved up into the top 10. I'm not sure. Easy decision from going up. I thought only 1, maybe 2. I didn't think they'd get into the top 10, so congratulations to them for that one. Mid-American Nazarene thought they would stay. If they did move up, it'd only be 1 spot. They did. Cumberland's big jump. Did not see that jump coming for Cumberland's. I had them in the range of at least staying, maybe moving up 17, 16. So actually, I wasn't too far off. No, yes, I was. I was very far off. I did not have them jumping up 6 spots. That one was kind of the second shot, the second highest jump, and the shock to me from that side of things. Briar Cliff dropped out of the top 10, now number 13. I had them outside the top 10. I didn't have a range for them, but I did feel like they would be outside of the top 10. Then we look over at Montana Tech, had them as the highest jump, and I think I even nailed it when I talked about the range. I said looking at around 18, 19. So actually I undersold it, but I did have a feeling they would have the highest jump from these polls, and rightfully so. They're probably the hottest team right now in terms of all these teams, in my opinion, from these past 2 weeks. I mean, Lewis and Clark State had them out of the top 10. Saw that one coming. St. Francis, I still think they're a top 15 team. I'm glad they went up to 16, but they should be, in my opinion, 15. I would bump Lewis and Clark down. Rocky Mountain knew they would go down. Corban's had a really quiet season in terms of just continuing to be a very good team, and keep an eye on them, and we're going to touch on them and the Cascade a little bit later in this episode. Langston dropped a significant amount. I felt they were going to go down. Didn't think they were going to go down that much. 8 spots down at number 19. Huntington did not have y'all joining the party. Congratulations on making it to number 20 in the polls. Again, nothing against Huntington. I just didn't think y'all were going to be in it, and to be honest with you, I don't think it makes sense, but I'll get to that in a moment here. Oregon Tech, kind of figured they'd be in the same range. Indiana Tech, not surprised they dropped. Looking back at my notes here, I had them dropping outside the top 20. Yeah, so I kind of had them getting that loss to Rochester Christian, which we'll touch on Rochester Christian in a minute here. Kind of hurt them there. Mid-American Christian, another team that I was not expecting to be in the top 10, top 25. They're in there now, number 23. Carroll dropped significantly, and Georgetown dropped as well. My biggest takeaways from the top 25 things that I just rattled off there. Georgetown must have dropped because of the William Carey game. I don't see Georgetown dropping, even though it was only 2 spots. I think they should have at least stayed. I'd give them 24. I just don't think they're a 25 on the bubble of being outside the top 25 type of team. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. Then IWU dropping all the way out has to be after the loss to St. Thomas. Again, it's not a nosedive off of a cliff drop, but it's a little. I thought 25 maybe, but I was not expecting to be receiving votes when these polls came out. Everything else figured. I understood completely. Again, kind of on point for what I was talking about in terms of falling and rising and staying where teams were at. Receiving votes takeaways for me. I'm surprised about Huntington and MACU. I'm not against them being in it, but I just feel like they jumped teams like William Carey, who's undefeated right now, Eastern Oregon, who's undefeated right now, and then even after that, the next year I'd give it to Evangel, all but one loss on the season, and Columbia, I believe, is undefeated right now as well. I just feel like those 4 teams are a little bit more deserving in terms of what they've been doing up to this point. Nothing against Huntington, nothing against MACU, but Huntington's case, you've lost to 2 receiving votes teams already. In MACU's case, you've lost to unranked teams. You were in the receiving votes and you came out, and now you're back in, and you kind of you skipped a couple steps, in my opinion. I'm not against these teams. Again, I'm going to keep saying that. But I just feel like there are 4 other teams that I would have given that nod to. That's the only critique I really have for these polls. I think for how shaken up I thought it was going to be, I think they actually hit the nail on the head. I was pretty confident in what they've done. Again, only 2 notes, in my opinion, from the top 25, and only really one in group the Huntington and MACU note into one for the receiving votes. So I think kudos to the coaches out there and the media and everybody that was selecting and putting in their polls and stuff for these rankings. I think y'all did a great job, and I'm looking forward to the next ones because I think it's going to be a lot harder. But I think y'all have done a really good job with this one, so I wanted to give you guys your kudos because I know there's plenty of coaches out there. Hey, what about that? I'm going to sit here and say, even though there's a few notes, other than that, I think they did a really, really good job. Now there's some big games that I wanted to touch on real quick before we get into the real crux of this episode, in my opinion. Number 24, Caro versus William Carey, really big game there. Number 9, Concordia versus Receiving Votes Providence. Number 2, Dort versus number 11, Mid-American Nazarene. Number 3, Camisville versus number 10, Dakota Wesleyan. I'm going to pause because as I speak, Cleary is 27 seconds away from pulling off the upset against newly Receiving Votes Lords. That's a big win there for Cleary and a big drop there as Lords will have their first loss of the season. I'll let you guys know when that goes final here in a moment. But like I talked about, those 4 games, obviously I'm going William Carey in the first one. I think they have been the better team. I think they should be in the top 25. I think, especially after Carroll just dropped another unranked game, or dropped another game in upset fashion to an unranked Rochester Christian team that I will pull up the stats here in a minute. Once we get to that part of the episode. I think William Carey's been the better team. Flat out. I don't have to go into the numbers. I don't think I need to go into the numbers. I think you look at just the way Carroll's season's been going right now. Been a lot of highs, few lows. I think it's been too much of a roller coaster. I think William Carey's been a steady engine moving forward towards the Southern States, towards national. I think they're going to be a national tournament team. I think they're going to have all that, everything they need. I think they're checking every box right now. And so I'm going to give it to the team that, again, is undefeated right now and has just been playing better basketball for longer stretches of the season. Concordia versus Providence. I think I went with the upset on Providence, so I'm going to stick with that. Do I think it's a more than a puncher's chance? Yes. Do I think it's a dark horse, real looking? No, not really. But I do think Providence has the ability to come up with this upset. I'm looking for them to maybe go in there with the chip on their shoulder. I think they feel like they should maybe be a little higher in the receiving votes picture. When we look at the receiving votes side of things, Providence has moved up to. Excuse me, they fell out of the receiving votes picture. So I think even more to my point. Oh, no, there they are. They're number 8. I think they probably feel like they should be receiving votes a little bit, at least receiving votes higher, maybe not top 25, but I'm sure that they feel like they could be up there with some of these other teams. You got MSU Northern, you've got Shawnee State, Lindsey Wilson. I think they feel they should be up there with some of these teams. So this will be a big win. I know it's going to be an uphill battle, but I'm kind of excited to see that one. Number 2, Dort versus number 11, Mid-American Nazarene. This was a matchup of 2 Titans. I talked about it inside the Heart earlier this week when I was talking with Alex about the Heart of America and how it's been a 2-horse race. Mid-American Nazarene, in your first, I'm not going to say first real test, but in one that I had circled for obvious reasons against Grandview, you dropped that one. Granted, it was on the road. Granted, it was on overtime. So when it's an overtime game, it's really a coin toss at that point. 5 minutes of basketball, whoever plays better in those 5 minutes most of the time comes out with the victory. But now you got a chip on your shoulder. Dort, same thing. This is the first time they're number 2 since what? Last season at some point at the beginning of the year? I mean, since then, they've been pretty much number 1 all year. So it's an interesting game because you've got 2 teams who are going to make the national tournament. Mid-American Nazarene is going to be the national tournament, whether it's an at-large bid or automatic bid, whatever the case is. Dort's going to make it as well. You got a opportunity to send a message here if you're both of these teams. You got a chance if you're Mid-American Nazarene to say, hey, yes, we dropped that one to Grandview in upset fashion, which I don't think I wouldn't consider an upset because I do think Grandview is that caliber of a team, even though they only have an RV next to their name. They're another team that I think, again, could possibly in the top 25, at least my next post. Maybe not this post, but my next post, keep an eye on them. But they have the ability to show, hey, we are still a possible red banner team. I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but at least a real deep national tournament contending team. And then Dort being Dort, obviously not being number 1, should put a little chip on their shoulder. It's crazy to say that you have a chip on your shoulder when you're the number 2 team in the country, but when you've won back-to-back national championships, that's what's going to tend to happen. So I'm just looking at this one from a mental standpoint. Who can come out and send a message more dominantly, more aggressively, more whatever you want to put a title and an adjective to it. I feel like this is an opportunity for both teams. I do believe Mid-American Nazarene has the opportunity to upset Dort. I do not believe Dort. If you told me Dort in a blowout or Mid-American Nazarene in an upset, I would lean more towards Mid-American Nazarene in the upset. This is a very good defensive team. Again, if you looked at my notes when I talked about it with Alex on Inside the Heart, they are a very, very good defensive team. I think it's going to be a defensive gem of a game all the way through for these full 40. This game, I believe, is going to be on Friday. I'll pull up the schedule just to confirm. But again, I do believe this game is going to be on Friday. It is going to be a very good game that if you have the ability to, I would highly recommend watching it because you will not be disappointed. It will be on Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time. 5 p.m. Central Time is when this game will start. So that's 6 o'clock Eastern Time for all my folks on the East Coast. Do yourself a favor, watch this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. Some top tier basketball, some top level basketball, elite coaching, all of the above. Make sure you watch this one. Make sure you get popcorn for this one. Last game that I talked about, Campbellsville versus Dakota Wesleyan, number 3 versus number 10 as of this morning. Going Campbellsville, obviously, but I like what I'm seeing from Dakota Wesleyan. You kind of slowly been creeping up the rankings. You kind of slowly been getting yourself into that top 10. Are they a top 10 caliber team? Absolutely. Now it's before they even got the number 10 next to their name. Can you be a top 5, even top 6, top 7 team? This game is where I'm going to see it. Do I think they win this game? No, unfortunately not. If you ask me to pick William Carey, Providence, Mid-American Nazarene, and Dakota Wesleyan, those are the 4 teams that are going to be upset winners or underdogs in their games. In order of most likely to least likely of an upset, I would go William Carey is my number 1 option. Providence is my number 2. Mid-American Nazarene, and Dakota Wesleyan. Now, respectfully to Dakota Wesleyan, there is a little bit of a gap between Mid-American Nazarene and Dakota Wesleyan, and there's a little bit of a gap between Mid-American Nazarene and the 2 receiving votes teams. I do believe for Dakota Wesleyan, it's more about, for me at least, competition. Can you compete against Campbellsville? Can you compete against a top 3 team in the country all year? They have not dropped out of that number 3 spot. They've held it tight. I think, again, the argument could have been made for at least this week or these next 2 weeks to be number 2. We'll leave that up to the air. We'll leave that up in the air for everybody else to debate. Keep an eye on this one. For me, I'm looking at competition level for Dakota Wesleyan. For Campbellsville, just keep doing it. I would say, be careful of being bored with success or being satisfied with success, but they don't seem like they're satisfied with success. I said it before in the beginning of the year when we talked about the Mid-South, in the preseason, in the summer. This team scares me. Campbellsville, they scare me because of what happened last year in the national tournament, where they were the only number 1 seed not to make it past the Elite 8, I believe it was. So you have a chip on your shoulder. That is very noticeable this year. That was my biggest thing. A revenge tour has been what I labeled this Campbellsville team from the beginning of the year, and they've been on one. Dort's still my favorite to win the national tournament. Bethel's right there. Campbellsville is the 3rd best team in the country right now. Absolutely. I can't wait till the Mid-South play starts so I can see Bethel and them going at it. I can't wait to see when Cumberland's and Campbellsville go at it. I can't wait to see all those type of things because that's only going to get them better for the national tournament run. Those are the 3 teams that I have no doubt will be Red Banner teams. And Well, it's a little early, but those could be my 3 out of the 4 number 1 seeds. And our bracket is brewing. The bracket will be out within the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. But I do believe that Dakota Wesleyan, it's more of, for me, competition. If you compete, and again, you compete with them. I said it. I literally said it word for word against the Grandview and Mid-American Nazarene game. I said, if Grandview keeps it close for the first 38 minutes, the last 2 minutes will be Grandview, they'll win it. That's what happened. They won in overtime. If Dakota Wesleyan can compete with Campbellsville for the first 38 minutes, those last 2 minutes, I'd go to Dakota Wesleyan. I'd go to Dakota Wesleyan. That's what happens. Again, I got a perfect example for you right here next to me. Just went final. Cleary beat Lower 75-69. It was pretty much close the entire game. If you let teams hang around that you're quote unquote better than or quote unquote supposed to put away, they'll come back to hurt you, because now you got to be perfect those last 2 minutes, and you haven't probably been playing that well for those first 38, so you can't just flip it on. I don't care who you are. If you are Dort, if you are Bethel, if you are Campbellsville, you cannot flip it on. No one can just turn on a switch and just go. They got to be. It's a rhythm thing. So keep an eye out for that one for Dakota Wesleyan fans out there. I'm not saying you don't got a chance. I'm just saying it's less of a chance than some of these other teams to pull off the upset. Now we're gonna head to the. Actually, we'll touch on that Rochester Christian game that I talked about earlier, because Rochester Christian is made a living of just being upset killers, upset teams, whatever you want to call them. They just beat Carroll earlier today in overtime, 62-60 in Daytona. Got a few of the stats for you guys here. Rochester Christian, 10 points in overtime. Carroll only 8. Looking at the play-by-play, because I could not watch the live stream, obviously back. It was 2 free throws by Rochester Christian that ended up winning the game. The free throws were by J.C. Sommers. And then from the play-by-play, Carroll had a shot, missed it, got an offensive rebound, missed it again. That one was blocked by Kendall Zeiter for the pretty much game-winning block in that one. Looking at the box score specifically, Rochester Christian, look, you do it once, cool. It might be a fluke. You do it twice, hey, now we got to start talking about some things. I know the WAC has been kind of, Indiana Tech dominated. Lords obviously last year did their thing, but I talked about it in the preseason show about the WAC earlier this summer. It might be time for a shakeup in the WAC, and Rochester Christian could be that team. They were, I believe, my dark horse kind of playoff team. Like, hey, they can make a real run at it. I was really high on University of Ohio, of Northwestern Ohio. I'm so high on them. Obviously, you do have Indiana Tech and Lords out of respect for what they did last year. Cleary, I think that they could have a really good season as well. So there is a lot of unknown in the WAC, and we're seeing it kind of brewing and kind of showing its face now with some of these teams pulling off these upsets. But for Rochester Christian, we look at the box score. Player of the game, Kendall Zeiter, 17 points. Obviously, the game-winning block that I just talked about. 15 rebounds, so a double-double performance for her. Congratulations on a great performance there. You also had 5 blocks. Not just the game-winning block, but 5 blocks. You had a complete two-way game there. You also had Ashley Loon, 11 points, 5 rebounds. Off the bench, you had J.C. Sommers, who obviously hit the go-ahead free throws at the line. She went 4 for 4, those last 2 being obviously the biggest ones of the game. She almost had a double-double as well, 9 rebounds for her. Just a great game overall for a team like Rochester Christian, shooting 35% from the field, 33% from the three-point line. For Carroll, just a rough shooting night. It looks by the looks of it. Yes, were led by your go-to in Willa Albrecht, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals. The girl filled up the stat sheet for sure. But 1 for 8 from the three-point line kind of hurts when you're leading scorer, when you're leading offensive force. Really, just having a rough night. Kenzie Allen did step up in that department with 3 for 6 from the three-point line. You also had Megan Cresteter with 12 points, 5 rebounds as well. So it just came down to a lot of just offense, because if you take away Willa and Megan's points, that's 31 points right there. The rest of the team combined for 9, 7, about give me almost a little bit over what Willa and Megan had there, because 17, 11, 20, 38, just over what they had by 7 points, give or take, and that was quick math there. So just a rough night shooting the ball. They shot the ball 30% from the field, not ideal, 19% from the three-point line. The free throws what kept them in the game, 80% at 12 of 15, while Rochester Christian left 6 points at the line, 10 of 16. So, but again, this goes to show you the WAC is going to be, start to brewing something here. You cannot on any given night, if you're a team in the WAC, go into these games, no matter who it is, and expect it to be an easy one, because if you do, it will come back to hurt you, and that'll be a game that you wish you got back. I'm sure Lords don't feel like they shouldn't have lost this game, even though Clear's a really good team. I'm sure Indiana Tech feels like they shouldn't have lost that game to Rochester Christian, even though they've proven again that they can't do this at an elite level. Keep an eye on the WAC as we get closer into the conference, and as we get deeper into conference and closer to the postseason tournament time. There's another game that I wanted to talk about real quick before I head over to the Cascade, because that's where we're going to focus, again, the majority of this episode on the back end here for. It was Thomas picked up a really good win yesterday. Again, we're recording this Wednesday night, so yesterday, Tuesday night, against Morningside, 71-66. I think that's a really good win for Thomas, who's had a very solid season in the Southern States. Don't know if I would pick them necessarily as a Southern States champion right now, but a really good playoff team. I think they're going to be a playoff team. Again, a team that I just don't think anybody wants to see in the Southern States. I don't think they want to see Thomas. I don't think that Thomas has necessarily a great chance to win it right now. But you beat a Morningside, you've won some really good games early on. You've also lost some games, which I'm sure you want back. But wanted to give love there to Thomas for picking up that win there. Talked about it just moments ago. I'm going to focus mainly on the Cascade. Why? The Cascade is really the only conference that's going to be in action the weekend before Christmas, because they are a Friday, Saturday conference schedule. They're the only ones that are going to really be going. And there are some good games that I want to touch on. And we haven't really touched on the west side of things. We touched on the east a lot. We touched on a little bit on the centrals with, the WACs of the world and whatever. But wanted to give a little bit more love lately. We've been giving some love to the West, so wanted to finish that and round it out with Cascade. Picked the picture to his perfect time. So we're going to do all eyes on the Cascade, this or that segment. We did this or that earlier this year. For those who don't know, it's basically what it sounds like. This or that. I'm going to give myself kind of 2 talking points. And I'll have to pick which one. I do have some notes on each one. So we're going to deep dive into it, see if you guys agree with me, see if you guys don't agree with me. Would you have gone the opposite option? We will see once I give you guys all the info. For the schedules, obviously we will post the official conference spotlights later this week once the week officially ends. We're wrapping up week 8 here of the season, going Thursday to Thursday, obviously, because technically that's when the season started. Friday, 5:30 Pacific time, College of Idaho versus Evergreen. Receiving votes Eastern Oregon versus Northwest. Number 18, Corban versus receiving votes Southern Oregon. That's my game of the weekend. Bushnell versus number 20, Oregon Tech. I've got College of Idaho, Eastern Oregon. I got Corban. And I've actually got Bushnell. Give me an upset, Bushnell. And then Saturday at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, it's going to be College of Idaho versus Northwest. I've got College of Idaho in that one. Number 18, Corban versus number 20, Oregon Tech. I've got Corban in that one. And then Bushnell versus Southern Oregon. I've got Southern Oregon. Receiving votes Eastern Oregon versus Evergreen, Eastern Oregon. And then number 15, Lewis and Clark State versus Warner Pacific. I've got Lewis and Clark State. Again, quick, that's the schedule. But we're going to talk about this or that for the full weekend. So talking about how the Cascade will look on Sunday morning once all the games are done Friday and Saturday. The first this or that we are going to touch on is simple, and it's about arguably the best team in the Cascade right now, Corban. This or that, Corban goes 2-0 or they go 1-2. That is what we're looking at when we talk about the first type of things with this weekend. Corban has easily the toughest schedule of the weekend. You've got receiving votes Southern Oregon first on Friday, and then you've got number 20 Oregon Tech. Easily the hardest schedule for this weekend alone. Number 1 points, the best offense in the Cascade right now, 83.6 points per game. Their field goal percentage is at 46.4. They're fourth in three-point percentage at 32.9. They have been a really, really good offensive team, and by a good margin. When we look at the numbers in the Cascade specifically, talking about points, the next highest team is Lewis and Clark State at 78. So you're about a 5-point difference right now from 1 to 2. And then after that, you're a 3-point difference between Lewis and Clark State and Oregon Tech. And then after that, you're pretty much divided evenly up until Eastern Oregon at 71. And then all the other teams below them are 66 or below. So Corban offensively has had a really, really, really good season. They're also top 5 in guarding the 3-ball. And we talked about it in our preseason show in the summer that this is a make or miss conference. That's what Lex and I dubbed it, because the 3-point ball is going to be very, very important. It's clearly going to be the biggest thing of how can you guard it and how can you use it to your advantage. Corban's done a really good job at guarding it. They're top 5 at guarding the 3-ball at 30.4. So they've checked every box. They've checked every single box. And again, I've talked about it before. Sometimes teams are having a boring season. I think Corban's having a boring season. Why? Because they're just really, really good on every single given night. They went from unranked, receiving votes, top 25, now the top 18. Don't be surprised if they creep a little bit more. Now, are they unbeatable? No. Do I have them probably as a team to beat right now in the Cascade as I'm recording on December 17th? Yes. That's the numbers are showing. That's what my eyes are telling me. So Corban's doing it. Corban has really been one of the more more surprising teams this season for me, not just in the Cascade, but on a national scale. Again, number 18 in the country. I don't have that on my bingo card, I'll be honest with y'all. The leader for them, especially in scoring, Jersey Ureta, 18.7 points, 45% from the field, 85% from the free throw line, and almost 5 rebounds a game with 4 assists. She's filling up the stat sheet. She's been out there as an all-conference member. She's going to be in contention for Player of the Year if Corban continues to win and win at a high level. She has had only 1 game under 10 points. She's had 3 games over 20 and 2 games over 30 in those numbers. She has been one of the best offensive players in the conference wire to wire so far this season. She's going to be the engine of this offense moving forward. Now, she's not the only engine of this offense. She's not the only offensive source. Granted, she is going to be the foundation that I believe Corban has to continue to play off of. 4 assists is what gives me the most, just gives me the biggest jitters, gives me the biggest, just interesting feeling of what this team could be. Because when your leading scorer is putting up nearly 20 points a game, look at the numbers, number 2 in scoring, but she's almost at 5 assists a game. That means she's not being selfish. That means that she's moving the ball. That means she's letting the game come to her to some degree. That means that her teammates are just as important of the offense as she is. And she's the offense at times. So it just goes to show you how deep this team really is. I also want to give love to the Robin of this team. You could call her 1B if you want. Again, the only offensive engine is Jersey. Amelia Bishop, 13.5 points, 55% from the field, 8.1 rebounds, so she's doing the dirty work down there on the glass. Not a single attempt from 3 all year. You have got probably the best 1-2 punch in the conference right now, if you're Corban. You've got a great guard in Jersey who is doing it on both sides of the ball, who's doing it in both ways on the offensive side of the ball, where you're creating for yourself, you're creating for your teammates, you're able to do it at the right times, you're able to feel the game out and have that good vibe, and still getting your teammates involved, like I mentioned. Then you also have a post player, a low block presence, a paint presence that you're able to just dump the ball down into. You're able to get her at the high post. You're able to get her in the short corner and let her cook. Again, 13.5 points. She has not attempted a single 3 all year. And she's only had 1 game as well under 10 points. She's on a 9-game streak, of at least 10 or more points. She has been the perfect complementary piece to what Jersey brings to the offense side of things, because now Jersey breaks down her man to dump off right there, or vice versa. You throw the ball down there to Bishop, they turn their head. They got to respect her down there. They respect the basketball when it's in her hands on that low block and that on that baseline. That's a quick cut. That's a relocation. That's an open shot. That's an attack on the closeout, attack on the scrambling defense. You are now allowing 2 of the best offensive players to play advantage basketball, and that's always going to be a recipe for success if you're Corban. The 2-man game is going to be lethal all year. You play off of that. Now you get to really get everybody else involved, which is now that's going to make it even harder to guard them. Corban is probably going to be the best offensive team moving forward. Now, slump to our thing. Doesn't mean that they can't be figured out, but they are, let me see exactly how many games before I say it. Corban, as of we stand right now, is 9-1. So it's been 10 games. All right. They're getting into conference play now, officially. So I haven't figured it out. We'll see how time moves. But if they come out of this weekend 2-0, I'm stamping them as a team to beat. I get it. Eastern Oregon, you're going to have something to say about that. I understand. College of Idaho, I think you're going to have something to say about that too. I understand. Oregon Tech, same thing. I get that. But talking about right now this weekend, could it be an over-exaggeration? Possibly. I could change my predict. The list is fluid. But I've just seen a lot more from Corban from the numbers. I'm going to continue to watch more of their games. So that way I can really fully understand, is this team legit, or is it just really them playing at a high level right now? Can this be sustainable is the biggest thing when it comes to a conference like the Cascade. When you've got, in my opinion, Corban, Eastern Oregon, I think those two are my favorites, ahead of the pack right now. In the middle, I've got Southern Oregon, Oregon Tech, and College of Idaho are kind of, those three are a little interesting because I think Southern Oregon, there's a clear reason that they're not one of the best in the conference right now, and I'll get to that literally the next segment. For College of Idaho, there have been some tough losses this season, some tough play. I don't know. I just don't know yet. I don't have enough of a feel. Same thing for Oregon Tech. I expect a lot more from Oregon Tech. I think they'll probably turn around as the season goes on. But they've had some tough ones as well that they probably want back. And there's been some hiccups throughout the season. But Eastern Oregon and College of Idaho to this point have given me the most to be confident behind. And I'm a big confidence guy. If you've been doing it for 10 plus games now, it's probably who you are. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, who you play matters and the level of competition matters. Once you get to conference play, when these teams are able to scout you and have been used to you, if you're the same coach for the past few years, now I know what you run, I know what you want to run, all that type of stuff, that way things get a little bit interesting. So I'm not ready to fully go there, but if Corban goes 2-0 this weekend and they go 2-0 in dominant fashion, if they go 2-0 winning by combined 2 points in both games, all right, maybe not team to beat, but ahead of the pack a little bit. Cool, but if they go out there and win by 10 plus points in both games, all right, we got to have a serious conversation now. Next one. So that was the this or that of Corban going 2-0. I'm going to go with Corban going 2-0. If you gave me those two options, I would go Corban going 2-0. Now, the next one for this or that is on Southern Oregon. Talked about them a minute ago. This or that. Either Southern Oregon shows a better than 8th best offensive weekend, or they continue to struggle and can't keep up the scoring specifically. What I mean by that is, look at the numbers in the Cascade. Southern Oregon right now, these are the numbers. 3rd on defense in guarding the ball at 29, they're guarding the 3 ball, at 29.8. Tied for 4th in steals at 8.8. So really good defensive team. They're averaging 63.8 points per game. 5 out of their 10 games of the season so far have been under 65 points. It's not going to get it done in the Cascade. Again, a make-or-miss conference where scoring is going to be at a premium. I just talked about it. We looked at the numbers. I'll give you the full list. Corban's at number 1 with 83.6 points per game. Then Lewis and Clark State at 78.2. Then Oregon Tech at 75.5. College of Idaho at 73.3. Eastern Oregon at 71.1. Those are the top 5. Then you've got a noticeable decline from Eastern Oregon to Warner Pacific, who's at 66.1. Excuse me, wrong order. Let me fix this for a second. Then you've got, Northwest, who's at 68.5. Then you've got Warner Pacific at 66.1. Then you get to Southern Oregon at 63.8, who's only 0.5 better than the next team behind them, which is Bushnell. So you can't have that if you're looking to be a Cascade Conference Tournament champion, or number 1 seed, whatever the goal is. You can't look at that. Then you've got them being 8th in field goal percentage at 35.7. It's a little too low for me. 5th in three-point percentage, not bad. Still middle of the pack, but not bad. 32.8. And 7th in assists. So my question now becomes, where's the conversion? I'm looking mainly at the field goal percentage. And with your field goal percentage being at that, but your three-point percentage being almost as even as your field goal percentage for your threes, I just think it's about a conversion. You're getting 13 assists, but you're putting up 63 points per game. There's a little bit of a disconnect there, in my opinion. It's giving a team that, from the perimeter, solid. Do I think they're above average? Maybe. Do I think they're a great, above a great perimeter team? Not right now. Again, only 5th in the conference. Granted, the conference is 11 deep, so but again, you're middle of the pack. You're about middle of the pack. But the field goal percentage is what I'm looking at. You're below average now. 35.7. If we look at the numbers for the field goal percentage specifically, you've got Corban at 46, Lewis and Clark at 45, Oregon Tech 44, College of Idaho 42, Eastern Oregon 42, Warner Pacific 40, Northwest 40, Bushnell 36, and then you've got Evergreen and Walla Walla behind Southern Oregon. It's too low. It's too low. If you want to be one of the best teams in the conference, you're gonna have to be better than that. And to be honest with you, I think I might have miscounted because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe a little bit lower than 8. I think it might be 9 actually. You got it. That's my biggest thing. To the exact question, can Southern Oregon show us that? You've got Corban, and then you've got Bushnell. It's a perfect weekend to show it because Obviously, if it was just Corban, it'd be like, well, Corban's, it's a pretty solid defense. It's going to be hard for them to score. They've been struggling all year anyways. Look at Bushnell. You're like, well, Bushnell defensively, when you look at what their defense is allowing this season for Bushnell, they're ranked number 4, bottom 4, I should say, in opponents' points per game at 69.7. And even still, that's 6 more points that Bushnell is allowing than Southern Oregon is scoring. So you've got an opportunity in front of you against a really good defense in Corban, and you got an opportunity in front of you against a not so good defense in Bushnell. That's why I want to have the two drastic ends of the spectrum. Either they do or they don't. And the way I'm going to categorize it or organize it is, if they do, then they win both games. Because there's no way, especially in that Corban game, that's what I'm looking at. There's no way, unless Corban has a bad shooting night, you're going to be able to beat them scoring in the 60s and 70s. And I'll say low 70s. If you can get the high 70s, maybe. But there's no way that you're going to get them scoring in the 60s. If Southern Oregon beats Corban, then there's an offense in there that just hasn't found its niche yet, hasn't been clicking yet. On the flip side, if they go to Bushnell, or they host Bushnell, and they don't get over 70 on a team that's giving up about 70 a game, got a problem. I'm going to lean on that end, though. I just feel like 63 points per game, and for a weekend, for 2 games in a row, I'm expecting them to have more than 70. It's a lot to ask for. You do that, hey, I'll happily be wrong. But I'm looking at the offense for Southern Oregon. Right now, if you force me to pick those 2 options, I'm going to go the latter. I'm going to go with them just struggling to keep up the scoring. They might have a hot moment. They might have a hot quarter or two. But the numbers are the numbers. And the numbers show that if they go hot, they will go cold in that same game. We'll see if that changes as the season goes on, because if it does, then we're talking about a really, really good team here, a 2-way elite team. But the offense has been the biggest struggle for me watching Southern Oregon. Last thing here before I do that, actually, I'm going to talk about some key players for Southern Oregon. Specifically on the and this is what I want to talk about when I talk about the offense. Just a quick note here. Bridget McIntyre, Eliza Delgio, Sage Wilson. The only 3 players on the team who are scoring over 10 points. Wilson's at 10.2, Eliza's at 11.9, and then Bridget's at 13.6. Great. 3 of the best scorers in the conference. All of them are shooting above 30%. All of them are shooting above 30% from the 3-point line. I'm mainly looking at Eliza, who's leading the conference at 45.7. Like, you're good. But this is the issue. The next 4 teams, I believe it was, next 3 teams, aren't getting over. And then the next highest after those 3, I should say, is 6.9 points. It's too big of a gap. It's too big of a drop-off when you talk about some of these teams who you have really good scoring at the top, but then there's not the point numbers. Maybe if it's a 13, 12, 10, but then we look at maybe a 9 or an 8, then a 7, then another 7, then a 6. Then like there's a slower decrease as the numbers go. Not a big. That's 4 points. It's a 4-point difference. That's a 4-point difference. Now you're talking about those extra 4 points. You're talking about a 66 point per game team. It's a lot. At least now we're at average. Right now we're below average. I've said it before. If you're scoring below 60, you're not a good offense. Sorry to break it to you. If you're between 61 to 65, under average, about average, 65 to 67, 68, consider that average, 69 to the low 70s, up to 74, really good, above average. 75 to 80, you're great, and 80 and up, you're an elite offense. Corban, to me, by those rules, you're an elite offense. You're an elite offense. So you got to be able to compete with that. That's tough. That's tough to do. They are leading in offensive rebounds at 15.4. The next highest is 13, so you're going to get second chance opportunities. Use them to your advantage. But that's my last note on Southern Oregon. The last, this or that. We talked about Corban, talked about Southern Oregon. We're also going to talk about the other 2 teams that in my opinion, could be talked about a little bit. I know, I'm going to leave one out. We're not going to touch too much on Oregon Tech because I think I'm not ready to talk about them just yet. I need to give a little bit more time. I need to see some more things develop, and then we can touch back on Oregon Tech. I still think they're a top 5 team in the conference. I still think Oregon Tech is going to be a real contender in the conference. But the other 4, what I'm looking at for this weekend. For College of Idaho and Eastern Oregon, it's simple. This or that. Either Eastern Oregon goes 1-1 or College of Idaho goes 1-1. Which of those do I think is more likely to happen this weekend? Quick recap of their schedules. Eastern Oregon is going to be playing in their 2 games. They have they've got Northwest and Evergreen. And then for College of Idaho, they've got Evergreen and Northwest. There's a reason I went like that. Because they play the same teams. They play exactly the same teams. So, do I think that Eastern Oregon will drop 1? Or do I think College of Idaho will drop 1? Well, let's break down the numbers. Looking at the numbers here, let's start with College of Idaho. So, College of Idaho, we talk about the offense side of things. That's what I'm on right now. They are 3rd best in the conference at allowing points, 59 points. They're allowing 59 points from their offense. From a field goal percentage, the teams are shooting. They are the best at opponents' field goal percentage at 35.2. 3-point percentage, they are number 4 in opponents' 3-point percentage at 30.1. Right, so defensively, College of Idaho is a really, really good team. Let's look at the Eastern Oregon side of things. Eastern Oregon, when we talk about the 3-point percentage, they're number 1 in opponent's 3-point percentage. When we talk about the field goal percentage, they're number 2 in opponent's field goal percentage. Just 0.4 difference between College of Idaho and Eastern Oregon in that department. And then we talk about the overall scoring. Eastern Oregon is number 2 at 58.1. Almost a whole point better than College of Idaho. Let's go over the offense side of things. Let's see how the offense stacks up. We talk about field goal percentage. College of Idaho, number 4 in the conference and field goal percentage at 42.7. Eastern Oregon right behind them at 42.5 at number 5. 3-point percentage. You've got College of Idaho, number 2 in 3-point percentage at 35.5. Eastern Oregon, not the best. They're in the middle of the pack right now. They're at 32.5. So there's a noticeable gap there. That could be a very interesting thing moving forward. And you talk about scoring. Talked about it earlier. College of Idaho is at number 4 at 73.3, and then Eastern Oregon at 71.1. These teams, very identical. Very identical. Very identical. The main thing that I would go with when I talk about this team, the reason I would go that College of Idaho drops one of those games over and then Eastern Oregon drops one of those games, I just believe Eastern Oregon is a better College of Idaho. I do. It might be a gut feeling. It might be just looking at the numbers. Because don't get me wrong, College of Idaho's got some hoopers on this team. They got some great dogs on this team. But in a conference where scoring's kind of gotta be at a premium, I'm looking at the fact that Eastern Oregon has a top 10 scorer in the conference that's sitting right now at, gotta get the averages, sitting right now at 14.1. Yes, College of Idaho's got one as well, who's at 13.2 more. But I feel like Eastern Oregon is deeper offensively speaking. Because when we look at Eastern Oregon stats, Kelsey Signer, by the way, is the one I'm talking about for Eastern Oregon. 14.1 points, 6.9 rebounds, 42% from the field, 37% for the three-point line. Again, one of the top 10 scorers in the conference. The next 5 players after that, all over 6 points. I talked about it earlier. If you got a slower decrease, you're golden. Look at College of Idaho. Look at their lineup. Look at their scoring numbers, right? Again, we know Kylie Waltmeyer, 13.2 points per game. Solid. Brooke Bressford, 9. Anna Mooney, 9. Mia Austin, 8. Tyron Riley, 7. Riley Beck, 7. Maya Hardy, 6. Great. Again, these teams are very identical. That's why they're separated by 1 point, by a bucket in terms of scoring the ball. But when I look at the numbers and I look at the games, I look at what Eastern Oregon's done this year. They've already gotten some key wins over them, over teams in the country. That's where the final straw goes. Because while I said, both teams got to be deep. You look at Eastern Oregon, you look at Corban, both teams are kind of deep. Both teams got to be really good on defense. They're literally 1 and 2 in defense. Both teams got to be good on offense. They're literally 3 and 4 in offense, or 4 and 5 in offense. There is not much. I'm splitting hairs when I talk about these two teams. I am. I know that. So I got to go to their schedule. Eastern Oregon's undefeated. They've played arguably better competition than College of Idaho. Nothing against who College of Idaho has played, but if you look at their game log, They lost to Montana Tech and Montana Western to start the season. Already a tough start there. And then you recently lost Lewis and Clark State. Tough loss there. You know who who Eastern Oregon recently played? Lewis and Clark State. And they won. So sometimes it comes down to, yes, it's not a definitive thing. And I'm not saying that if Eastern Oregon and College of Idaho matched up, it would be a lopsided victory. No, it wouldn't. I think it would probably be a 5-point or less victory for Eastern Oregon. But from just talking about this or that, when you've got two of those games lined up, I would lean more towards Eastern Oregon going 2-0 this weekend over College of Idaho. I think College of Idaho goes 1-1. I can't tell you which game it is, but it's a gut feeling that I have right now. And I'll end it by saying this on College of Idaho. The team is not a bad team. They would be, again, in power rankings, if you force me to pick, they might be number 3. They might be number 3 in the Cascade for me, to be honest with you. I'm sticking with Corban or Eastern Oregon, my 1-2. And I think College of Idaho might be number 3. It really might be number 3. Might be over Oregon Tech and Southern Oregon. This weekend, if College of Idaho goes 2-0 this weekend, in dominant fashion, I'm very big on that. Can't just win we're in college. You can't just win. Winning is cool. But College of Idaho has aspirations of being a Cascade Conference champion. To be a champion in the Cascade, one of the best conferences in women's basketball, you need to do things differently. You got to hold a different standard. Southern Oregon was almost perfect last year. Perfect example. Eastern Oregon right now is perfect. Corban 9-1, close to being perfect. But what they're lacking in record, they're making up for in ranking right now. So overall, for me, College of Idaho has made a really good case of being the number 3 best team in the country in the conference. That's where they're at right now for me. They can move up. Don't get me wrong, but that's where they're at right now. So that's why I'm going to go with them being the one to drop 1 this weekend rather than Eastern Oregon. If I'm wrong, hey, I'll get on here next episode and apologize. The next episode that will be live or I will record, because we are, like I mentioned earlier, with the Christmas holiday, with the Christmas season coming up, I do plan on having some pre-recorded episodes come out next week. So they got 2 coaching interviews lined up. I'll be doing them literally wrapping up this week. So I'll either post on our Monday and Thursday schedule like normal. I know Thursday is going to be Christmas. Maybe I'll post it before Christmas, just so that way it's not on Christmas Day. But we'll see how the schedule lines up. But yeah, I won't be back until the following week to kind of recap everything. Only three days of games next week. Talking about Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I believe is off. So obviously for the holiday breaks and everything. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Hoop Report. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for all the support. Again, I've said it a few times, every episode it feels like, but I just can never say it enough. The holiday time is coming around, so being able to reminisce on the year that we've had, being able to reminisce on the year that I've had, the ups, the downs, all that kind of stuff. This was not on my bingo card at the beginning of the calendar year in January. It started becoming a thing as this year went on, and now obviously we're here 34 episodes in, and I couldn't have asked for a better experience. I really appreciate it. Again, fans, players, coaches, everybody that has been interacting and tuning in throughout these couple months now. Really means a lot. It really does. So happy holidays to everybody. I appreciate it. I hope you guys are enjoying your time with your family and friends. Make sure you catch some good basketball this weekend. Wrap up. Get ready for the Christmas break, because it's going to be some good stuff this weekend. But we will catch you on the next one. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.